All right, welcome back. Today we are digging into something, well, pretty fascinating. It's a sixth grade math lesson, but it has this wild idea at its core. What if the secret to getting algebra is actually hidden in the book of Exodus? I know, right? Let's see exactly how they make that work.
And yeah, that is the big question, right? How do you teach algebra using the book of Exodus? It's a pretty unexpected pairing, to say the least. It immediately gets you wondering how these two things could possibly connect in a way that helps students actually learn.
So this is the lesson's core objective, pulled right from the document itself. And look at how it frames the whole process. It's not just about solving for x. No, it's a journey, a step-by-step trek towards the solution. It's meant to directly mirror that epic story of Moses. Okay, so first up we have Section 1, Moses' Math Class. Let's take a look at how this lesson even begins to set the stage, trying to make something as abstract as algebra feel a little more real.
Next, we get to Section 2, the puzzle's secret key. This is where the lesson hands over the one fundamental tool that students are going to need to navigate this whole mathematical journey.
So, the big idea here is refreshingly simple. Equations are basically just puzzles. And that's a brilliant move, right? Because it immediately reframes algebra. It stops being this intimidating, scary thing and turns into a challenge, like a game or a riddle. It taps right into that natural curiosity.
And of course, every puzzle needs a key. In algebra, that key is what we call the inverse operation. It's a really simple concept, actually. It just means that for every single thing you do in math, there's an opposite that can undo it. The logic is just so clean. If something is added, you subtract to undo it. If something's subtracted, well, you add. They're perfect opposites, two sides of the same coin. And getting this is the absolute secret to getting that unknown variable all by itself. All right, that brings us to Section 3, Solving with Stories. This is where we get to see that secret key in action, where the math and the story really start to merge. So, our first example is called Moses and the Missing People. The problem is set up like a real scenario from the story. Imagine this. Moses counts his group, and he has 12 people. But he remembers that 5 people joined him on the way. The question is, how many people did he start out with? Okay, so the first step is to turn that story into a math equation, right? That gives us y plus 5 equals 12. Now, to solve it, we just use our secret key, the inverse operation. So we subtract 5 from both sides of the equation, and boom, there's our answer, y equals 7. Moses started his journey with 7 people. And just like that, the story gives these abstract numbers some real solid context. Okay, let's check out the second example, manna for the journey. This time, the story is built around subtraction. So Moses starts with some unknown number of loaves of manna, he gives 2 away, and he ends up with 9 left. And just like before, that story translates into an equation. Y minus 2 equals 9. We pull out our key again. The inverse of subtracting 2 is, of course, adding 2. So we do that to both sides to figure out what y is. And there you have it. He must have started with 11 loaves of manna. You see how the process is just so clear and logical? And it's all tied directly to the story we're following.
Now, the last example in the lesson is a little different. It's not really about solving for an unknown from scratch. It's about confirming a solution. It asks the students to test a value, to see if it actually makes the equation true. And, that's a super important skill in algebra.
And this table here shows the process perfectly. First, we try plugging in z equals 6. Okay, does 7 plus 6 equal 14? Nope, that's 13. So that's the wrong key for this particular lock. But then we try z equals 7. And what do you know? 7 plus 7 does equal 14. That's it. We found our solution. And that brings us to the final section, trust the steps. This is where the lesson kind of pivots. It moves away from just the how-to of the math and really leans into the why of the whole theme. So, after teaching all the mechanics, the lesson makes what I think is its most interesting move. It basically suggests that the whole logical step-by-step process of solving an equation is really an exercise in trusting the method itself. And to really anchor this theme, the lesson brings in this verse from the book of Exodus. It's a really powerful statement about having faith and trust, especially during a moment of huge uncertainty in that story. And this is the final big connection the lesson makes. The idea is, just like Moses and the Israelites had to trust in a higher power to get them through the wilderness, students can learn to trust the rules of algebra to get them through an equation.
It's this really fascinating parallel between faith and pure logic.
So, all this leaves us with a pretty cool final thought, right? This entire lesson uses this grand, epic story to teach simple one-step equations. But it makes you wonder, what about two-step equations? Or, even more complex stuff. If one single step is a whole journey, what kind of story would you need to tell for two? It really gets you thinking about the power of a good story to make complicated things feel simple.